Hi YouTube, welcome to Northern Adventure and welcome back to the woods of northern Wisconsin in the great Wisconsin North Woods. And today I wanted to take you down in the one of the lower parts of our property and kind of show you a little bit what we have going on back here. It's kind of interesting. So I'm going to turn the camera around for just a second and show you something that's right over here. So here we go. So I'm not sure how much you can see, but right behind the tree line here, or right past the tree line here, we have a large amount of alder brush growing, and this is in a low spot. And what that low spot actually is the remains of the former river channel for the river that runs past our property. And it still gets wet in the spring, and if we have enough water in the river still flows through this channel early in the spring. And a couple of years ago, for instance, when the water was real high, there was water flowing through here. Then we had some really cold nights that spring and it froze up. So we had frozen standing water in here where the river was flowing through this channel. And then in the daytime when it would warm up, that ice would start breaking up and you could come down here and listen to the snap, crackle, pop in the woods of the ice breaking up back here. So kind of interesting. And you can still see, it might be hard to tell on this camera, but there's water standing in there. And that's good because we really need water. We don't often need water in the spring because we've had a lot of snow melt usually, or we've had rainfall in the spring. The last couple of springs in particular have been extremely wet right up through June. And that's not the case this year. We've had a dry spell and an early heat wave. By heat wave, I mean in the 70s. You know, out west, down south, southwest, you know, they've been dealing with 90s and close to 100 degrees, but here it's been in the 70s, and that's warm for this time of year. But it's been very dry with a really low humidity, and the consequence of that is we've got a red flag warning for wildfire. And that worries me a little bit. 35 years ago, I worked for the Wisconsin DNR off and on as wildfire control help. And then I worked for the U.S. Forest Service in that capacity part-time when there was wildfire season. So I got to spend a little time over a 3-year period in the woods up here working on putting out wildland fires. And that sounds maybe more interesting than it was. What that really amounted to a lot of times is schlepping a heavy bat can full of water through the woods while carrying a shovel and a Pulaski and doing work making fire breaks and looking for signs of smoke and you know, all of those things. But good to do. Maybe it helped out a little bit, I hope. We did go to a number of fires when I was there, so I actually participated in putting those fires out. But you know, back to today, it's a red flag warning. We've got some pretty strong winds. We've got bright sunny conditions. We've had that for a couple of days, and very low relative humidity. And that combined with the fact that we live in an area that has been historically prone to wildfire is kind of concerning. And I want to show you a little bit about what you see around here that, you know, mosquitoes are out, what you see around here that are signs that you need to take care of some things. And like I said, we haven't owned this property long enough to have taken care of everything. There's a lot of work to do to clean this up around here and make it a little safer, but let's talk about some of what you see that's less than optimal. So I'll turn you around again. Let's take a little walk. All right, so right before you see some of the problem. And what you're looking at are 3 downed balsam fir trees. There's the stump where one snapped off. And you know, in the spring normally, often this stuff can be kind of waterlogged after the snow has melted and it's been raining on it and it's fine. But it's not now. It's extremely dry. And it's surrounded by dry tinder on the ground and dry branches all around in the lower understory of this growth here. And balsam fir is a problem. So maybe that's just me speaking, but balsam fir to me is extremely dangerous when it lights on fire in the forest. Balsam burns readily, burns quickly, and burns really hot. I've had standing 40-foot balsam firs burst into flames next to me when I was walking down a trail during a fire. And let me tell you, it's not something you really want to see up close and personal. So we've got a lot of balsam fir in the woods of northern Wisconsin, and particularly, here in our woods. And so we need to take care of this. So I've been working to get this cleaned up wherever I see it, but there's a lot to do. There's been many years of downed balsam firs, and the balsam tends to die once it gets, 40, 50 feet high, because it gets beetle infestations and the beetles kill it. And there's no lack of balsam fir around here because it grows like weeds. So everywhere you go, if you stand still for a minute, a balsam fir might spring out of your foot because they just sprout up everywhere. They're a very fast growing tree in the woods here. They're everywhere, like I said. And I like them. I mean, they're a good tree, but they do present this problem. So here's an area we have to clean up, but let me take you a little further through the woods. So right behind me, another balsam fir. This is kind of a larger one, but you see there's a lot of dry, dead branch growth on this that would burn up pretty readily. And if I pan you through the forest, or have you walk with me through the forest a little bit, you're going to see a lot more of that. So let me turn you around and we'll take a walk up the hill. I mean, you can hear me crunching. You can look at all this dead little balsam. That one's actually got a little green on the very tip top. But, this is all very likely to catch fire in a situation where lightning happens or some sparks come from somewhere else. Then I got this dead one right here that came down. That's got to get cleaned up. Keep walking. You can hear the wind up there. So it's a really nice day out here, other than the fact that there's extreme fire danger, red flag warning. I'll pan you around again. Coming up to our little woods road here. So in here we have the top of a balsam, and we didn't make that. And I'll tell you what happened. Down the end of this woods road is another property owner, and I'm not sure if that property owner did the work or if you let someone come and do it, but one of the things that's popular in northern Wisconsin is to cut boughs in the fall. And cutting boughs is basically a balsam fir job. This is a bough, not a good one. I don't think anyone would cut that and use it for the purpose, but what they do with these is make Christmas wreaths. And there's quite a few Christmas wreath factories, manufacturers, if you will, in northern Wisconsin, so there's a big demand for these boughs. And so people will harvest them, not the entire tree, but they'll cut some of these boughs off. They're very flexible, so you can bend them around the ring and make a Christmas wreath. And last winter, whoever was down at the end of the property there was harvesting boughs, and as they brought those back out, they were just throwing refuse, things that they weren't going to use, off of their trucks and trailers full of boughs onto our property, and that's what this is. And so now we have to clean that up everywhere too. So people do that. If you don't clean it up, you leave it dry, you've got even more dry tinder. So that's a problem. I'm not real thrilled with the fact that they did that. I think that was lazy and inappropriate and frankly rude. But we'll go down here to our other woods road that I'm making. So I've been making a trail into the woods here, really because I need to clean up this area because we've got a lot of downed trees. Let me show you some of those. So right over here, some of the small trees are down, and that's fire danger. I do have to thin out this little stand-up popple over here. Some of the popple saplings are growing too close to each other, so I'm going to cut some of those out. Back down the road some more here. Alright, so right behind me, a couple of years ago we started, as time permitted, to cut a trail in here with our small tractor, our John Deere, and of course with a chainsaw, because we needed to get back in there and haul out some of the downed timber that was back here. And so we'll just take a little further walk. I'll show you some of that we still have to do. And here's as good a spot as any to show you. So right behind me, point right here, that's a dead balsam, big tall dead balsam. And then we've got another one like it right back here. And there's a few similar ones scattered throughout this section. And they all have to be taken down because they're all very, in my opinion, just fires waiting to happen. They're very dangerous. If one of these gets struck by lightning, it's fire on in a bad way. And we've got a bunch of this stuff happening here, so we need to clean this out and take you in the woods here. I turn you around so you can see where we're going. So we haven't gotten very far on this trail yet because there's been a lot to clean up back here. And you can see there's some you can see there's some laying stuff over there that needs to be cleaned up yet. Yeah, well, it's nice to work in the woods, but I sure wish I had more of this done before we get red flag warnings and not waiting during red flag warnings to hopefully not hear that someone did something foolish, started a fire, a spark from a power line, etc., etc. So that's what we've got going on in northern Wisconsin right now, red flag warning. And you know, in a lot of other parts of the country, there have been, over the last few years, some really devastating wildfires. And historically, Wisconsin's actually had some of the worst in U.S. history. Comes to mind the Peshtigo fire, which is named after the city of Peshtigo, which completely burned to the ground. Many people lost their lives in horrible ways. And it's named after that city, but it wasn't by no means confined to the city and its outskirts in Peshtigo, but it was a very, very wide, very huge area that was consumed by a massive wildfire in northeast Wisconsin, not just in Peshtigo, but even reaching down toward near Green Bay, then across the Bay of Green Bay into Door County, northwards from there. Many large fires took place in this part of northern Wisconsin, which is further north and west from the Peshtigo area. The city of Fifield, not far, that burned to the ground at one point. And that's, you know, that was caused by the cutover, the big cut, when they logged all the original virgin white pine and hemlock, but mainly white pine, from the forest here, and left a lot of slash. And you can still see some slash today. Let's go take a look at some slash. So this is a cutover area from recent logging activity, recent logging operations, and it's just a small plot done for probable wildlife management. But 100 years ago, most of northern Wisconsin looked like this after the big cut came through the entire northern half of the state. And the tops of the trees laying down, called slash, they weren't picked up, and they're very dry once they dry out. And a lot of times it was made out of, or a lot of times it consisted of pine and balsam fir and hemlock, and dried out that was very, very flammable. And that contributed to the very large fires that afflicted the northern part of the state. From some of the historical fires, let's take a look at some reporting, what I think was from the St. Paul Pioneer Press. So now we turn to the dusty pages of history for an incredible report from 1923. A report from the fall of 1923. Control fires near Ashland. Thousands of dollars worth of power lines saved. Men dig hole to escape the blaze. Datelined Ashland, Wisconsin. Red-eyed men with blackened faces and grimy hands rested from a 48-hour fight against brush fires last night with the knowledge that they had saved thousands of dollars worth of electrical power lines of the Lake Superior District Power Company. Ashland City is itself little affected by the fires. Several grass fires have kept the local fire department busy, but nothing serious has developed. There is, however, an atmosphere of depression and worry over the fire situation, and everyone is anxiously looking for the rain that will save the situation. Continual breathing of the smoke has begun to affect the health of many, and several persons were confined to their homes yesterday with a general indisposition and headache. Ashland men stand ready to rally for any calls of assistance. Only by digging a hole in the ground and huddling there while the fire burned over them did Albert Johnson, chief engineer of the Superior Falls plant of the power company, together with 3 other men, save their lives Tuesday afternoon. They had been trapped by the fire, and a backfire, failing to check the advance of the bushfire, which was traveling 2,000 feet an hour, they dug into the ground as a last resort. So that's the fire situation this year in northern Wisconsin for this year's fire season. Spring fire season anyway. And while we haven't had large fires like historically were taking place here in this state in recent decades, the possibility still exists. In neighboring Minnesota, right as I was filming this, they had some very significant wildfires in the northern part of the state, and that's uncomfortably close to where we are. So it's always possible. But hopefully with good forest management practices and the great response times and professionalism of our fire responders, both for the DNR, for local fire departments, the Forest Service, everyone does a great job here. Hopefully we can keep these fires to a minimum like they have for almost a century now. And with that in mind, this standing dead balsam, one of many in this tract of land that we manage, its minutes are numbered. It's coming down right now. So thanks for watching. This has been Northern Adventure, and please like and subscribe if you thought this video was interesting or valuable. We love to have you on the channel with us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.